Monica Langston didn't believe in hunches. She believed in data patterns control. That's what made her the youngest CEO in Hartswell Industries history. But on this particular night, sitting alone in her 27th floor office, with a glass of bourbon untouched beside her, she was following something far more primitive than metrics. Instinct. And her instinct told her something was off. She stared at the grainy black and white footage on her monitor. The woman appeared at 11:06 p.m., sharp just like every night. Navy blue uniform hair, pulled back posture, straight but subdued. Janelle Brooks, age 42, single mother, custodial staff night shift. 3 years of silent, invisible routine. To everyone else, she was forgettable. To Monica, she was a red flag. As the camera followed Janelle's movements down the hallway, dusting plaques, emptying bins, Monica leaned closer. The screen flickered as Janelle reached the frosted glass doors of Monica's office. She paused, swiped her badge, entered. "Come on," Monica muttered. Inside, Janelle moved efficiently, vacuumed the rug, wiped down the conference table, straightened chairs. But then she stopped in front of the desk. Monica's desk. That morning, Monica had accidentally left a folder there. A decoy. A draft report detailing sensitive restructuring plans, massive layoffs, contract dissolutions. Figures no one below executive level should ever see. And Janelle was reading it. Her hand didn't move. Her eyes did. Slowly. Purposefully. Monica paused the footage, her pulse rising. "You're not just cleaning, are you?" For 2 weeks, confidential documents had vanished. Not entire files, just select pages. Enough to disrupt a negotiation, enough to raise suspicion. And the only person with unrestricted access to Monica's office during off hours. The janitor who smiled politely, but never spoke unless spoken to. She picked up her phone. "Gordon," she said when the head of security answered. "I want surveillance on Janelle Brooks. Discreet off the books. I want to know where she goes when she leaves this building. Everything. You understand?" "Yes, ma'am." She hung up and sat back, fingers steepled beneath her chin. Most CEOs wouldn't waste their time on night staff, but Monica Langston didn't get to where she was by overlooking patterns. Something about this woman, her stillness, her eyes, the way she moved like someone playing a long game, it all made Monica's skin crawl. What she didn't know was that Janelle had seen the surveillance cameras weeks ago. Noticed the new ones installed in odd corners. Noticed how security now lingered longer when she passed. She knew the rhythm of suspicion. It followed her everywhere. In department stores, she was the one the clerks shadowed. At her daughter's school, she was the mom the PTA moms quietly whispered about because she arrived in uniform smelling faintly of bleach. She learned how to be invisible. But invisibility was a skill, and tonight she was done using it as a shield. When her shift ended at 2:00 a.m., Janelle walked home in the cold wind, passing the quiet rows of shuttered shops and flickering streetlights. In her modest apartment, the walls thin and worn, she greeted her son Andre, who was still awake. 16, brilliant with eyes like his mother's, sharp, searching. He looked up from his laptop. Any movement, Janelle nodded. She took the bait. Andre smiled, the kind of smile that hinted at more than youth. He turned the screen to show her a frozen frame from the office surveillance, Monica watching her. "She doesn't realize she's already 2 moves behind," Janelle murmured. "No," Andre said. "She thinks you're the pawn." She gave a soft laugh, weary but certain. "Let her." Back in her penthouse, Monica replayed the paused footage again. A janitor staring just a little too long at corporate secrets. Something about it left her uneasy. Not fear, not yet. But the feeling you get just before a storm breaks, the sharp electric sense that you may have misunderstood the sky. The next morning, Monica Langston arrived at Hartswell Tower 2 hours earlier than usual. She skipped her usual triple-shot espresso, ignored the good mornings from assistants, and headed straight to her private conference room. Gordon, head of security, was already waiting tight-lipped, holding a slim black folder. His eyes flicked up as she entered. "Well?" she asked, shrugging off her coat. Gordon hesitated, then handed her the folder. "We followed Janelle Brooks after she clocked out, just like you requested." Monica opened it, expecting images of back-alley meetings, USB exchanges, perhaps a burner phone. Instead, the first photo was of Janelle standing in line at a budget supermarket. The timestamp read 2:36 a.m. She went straight home after buying groceries, Gordon said. Then she made dinner. helped her son with chemistry homework until nearly 5 a.m., slept 3 hours, woke up to make breakfast, and then left for her second job cleaning at a hospital. Monica's jaw clenched. That's it. No evidence of meetings, data leaks, or contact with anyone suspicious, Gordon added. She keeps her head down, barely talks to anyone. Lives, honestly, a pretty exhausting life. Monica flipped through the rest of the report. Photos of a cramped apartment, grainy shots of Janelle at the kitchen table surrounded by notebooks, textbooks, printouts. In one image, she was drawing what looked like financial flowcharts. Another showed her correcting her son's physics equation with a red pen. That's advanced material, Monica muttered, squinting at the pages. What is she doing with quarterly cash flow sheets? Gordon cleared his throat. We looked deeper into her employment history. Before Hartswell, she worked at several high-profile firms, law offices, accounting agencies, even a defense contractor. Always on the night shift, always with access to sensitive materials. And at every company, certain cases turned unexpectedly in favor of whistleblowers. Monica's fingers stilled on the last page. You think she's some kind of plant, she asked. I don't know what she is, Gordon replied, but she's not just a janitor. Monica felt something twist in her chest. Not fear, not yet, but something close. Unease. She stood and walked toward the window, looking down at the city below. Her reflection in the glass stared back, composed, powerful, in control. She's hiding something, she said. People like her don't just end up reading corporate reports for fun. Gordon nodded, but his voice was more cautious now. Just be careful, Ms. Langston. If we go too far, this starts to look like profiling. Monica turned sharply. This has nothing to do with her race. It's about access and risk. I built this company on knowing where threats are hiding. But even as she said the words, they rang hollow. Because the truth was, Janelle did make her uneasy, and not just because of the documents. It was that look. Last night when Janelle glanced up from the report, it wasn't the look of someone caught red-handed. It was the look of someone who saw her. Not the CEO, not the title, just her, stripped of performance, laid bare, and Monica hated it. Later that afternoon, Janelle sat in the corner of the employee locker room, calmly folding the straps of her cleaning apron. Denise, one of the few black women in management, slipped in quietly and sat beside her. They're asking about you, Denise said, eyes scanning the door. HR, security, even a couple of execs. Something about missing documents. Janelle didn't flinch. And what did you say? Denise hesitated. That you're the most reliable person on this floor. Never late, never complains. But Janelle, she leaned in, be careful. You know how this goes. When a company needs a scapegoat, they don't go looking in the boardroom. Janelle smiled faintly. Not bitter, not afraid, just ready. What if I told you, she said softly, that I know exactly what they're planning for those warehouse workers next month? Denise blinked. What you mean? The layoffs. Janelle stood brushing lint from her apron. What if I told you I understood every clause in the contracts you type up without ever needing a law degree? Denise stared at her stunned, but Janelle was already walking away. Not faster, just straighter. Denise didn't move for a long moment after Janelle left. She just sat there, heart pounding the locker room, suddenly colder than it had been seconds ago. Those words, I understand every clause, echoed in her head, heavier with meaning than she could explain. Meanwhile, Janelle walked the hallway like someone who'd already accepted the storm ahead. There were new cameras in the ceiling now. She had counted them, 3 installed just the day before, all pointing toward the executive floor. She adjusted the strap of her supply cart and kept moving. Her route was memorized, but tonight her timing was intentional. At 11:08 p.m., she entered Monica Langston's office again. She did not hesitate. The folder from last time was gone. Monica wasn't sloppy twice, but Janelle didn't need it anymore. The evidence she'd seen had already been logged, copied, and organized. But this time she had something to leave behind. From the pocket of her uniform, she pulled a slim black device no bigger than a thumb drive. With practiced ease, she slid it into the USB port at the back of Monica's computer. While the antivirus program blinked idly on screen, the device quietly delivered a payload: internal documents, whistleblower reports, pension fund transfers, payroll manipulation schemes, every dirty secret she'd spent months collecting. Not stolen, returned, but this time to the right eyes. She wiped the desk down last, as always, carefully removing the fingerprints that weren't hers. Back at home, Andre was already working when she stepped in. The boy barely looked up, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Multiple windows open, email servers, encrypted chats, spreadsheets with color-coded rows. "Check your inbox," he said. I pulled 3 new threads from the board's private accounts. Janelle sat beside him, slipped off her work shoes and scanned the files. Her eyes, tired but sharp, took in every line with focus, honed by years of necessity. One email was time-stamped less than 2 hours ago. "Monica to Gordon. If we don't find anything in her locker tomorrow, plant something. I want her out before the board meeting. No mistakes." Andre exhaled through his teeth. "They're framing you." Janelle nodded. "Good." He looked at her sideways. "Good." This was the last piece, she said. "Now they'll do exactly what I need them to do. Get it all on record. Just make sure the cameras catch it." He grinned. They've been catching everything for 3 weeks. She leaned back, letting the exhaustion settle across her shoulders for a moment. "Then it's time." She walked into her bedroom and pulled a phone from a box buried in the closet. It was old, worn, used only once every few years. She scrolled to a single contact and pressed call. It rang twice. Grace came, the voice on the other end, alert and gravelly. "It's Janelle now," she said. "But yes, I'm ready to cash in that favor." There was a pause. "This about Hartswell." "It's bigger than that," she said. "Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Bring the team. Everything is ready." He didn't ask for proof. He didn't need to. He had known her at her peak when she was Dr. Janelle Brooks, systems engineer from MIT, Harvard MBA, the woman who once led a task force on white-collar corruption before being smeared and buried by a corporation she tried to expose. Now the cleaning lady nobody looked at twice was about to return as a storm. Janelle ended the call and stared out the window of her small apartment. The city pulsed under a navy sky. Somewhere Monica Langston was probably toasting her own cleverness, and that was perfect, because there's nothing more dangerous than a predator who thinks they've already won. At exactly 8:55 a.m., Monica Langston stepped out of the private elevator onto the executive floor, heels clicking sharply against polished stone, her blazer crisp hair pinned flawlessly. She carried herself like a woman about to deliver a lesson, the kind that left no room for redemption. Beside her, Gordon trailed silently, a locked black box in hand, the so-called evidence they had discovered that morning in Janelle's locker. "She's not even here yet?" Monica asked. "Not according to check-in logs," Gordon replied. "Perfect," she murmured. The plan had been carefully timed. Force Janelle to pick up an extra shift during the day, something she never did just so Monica could fire her publicly in front of staff in daylight. A message. This is what happens when you overstep. They turned the corner into the staff break room and stopped cold. Janelle was already there. She stood by her cleaning cart, neatly organizing supplies as if it were any ordinary morning. No tension in her shoulders, no panic in her eyes, just a calm efficiency that struck Monica as unsettling. Next to her stood Andre, holding a small digital camera. The lens was already pointed at them. Monica recovered quickly. "Good morning, Miss Brooks," she said, her voice cool. "I hope you slept well." "I imagine the uncertainty must have been exhausting." Janelle didn't look up. "I slept fine." "Did you?" Monica's jaw tightened. Janelle Brooks on suspicion of intellectual property theft and breach of confidentiality. Your employment with Hartswell Industries is terminated effective immediately. Security will now search your belongings. Gordon moved forward, opened Janelle's locker, and retrieved a thick folder marked confidential. He handed it to Monica like a trophy. "Here it is," he said. "The missing reports, pulled straight from her locker." Monica turned to the room, knowing staff had begun to gather near the doorway. A few maintenance workers, 2 HR interns. Denise stood in the back, arms crossed tightly over her chest, eyes flicking between Monica and Janelle. But when Janelle finally looked up, her expression wasn't fear. It wasn't even defiance. It was amusement. "Perfect timing," she said softly, glancing at Andre. "Did you get that?" "Every second," he replied. "Especially the part where Gordon placed the folder inside 20 minutes ago." Monica blinked. "What are you talking about?" Janelle removed her apron, slowly folding it, with the same precision she used to clean a CEO's office. Beneath it, she wore a dark gray blazer, simple and tailored. Nothing flashy, but on her it looked like armor. I'm talking, she said, stepping forward, about the fact that for the last 3 weeks, your own security system's been feeding live copies of every camera feed to my server. I'm talking about audio recordings, email threads, and, oh, those little meetings you've been having about how to make me disappear before the quarterly board review. Monica's lips parted, but no sound came out. That's when the hallway behind her erupted in a flurry of voices. A tall man in a navy suit entered the room, flashing a badge. Monica Langston, he said. I'm Agent Marcus Cole, Federal Bureau of Investigation. You're under arrest for corporate fraud, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and attempted framing of an employee. What? Monica backed away. This is absurd. You can't prove. But her voice was drowned out by the clink of handcuffs, the clicking of cameras, and the collective intake of breath from every person in the room who had once looked through Janelle Brooks like she wasn't even there. Janelle didn't move, didn't smile. She simply pulled a business card from her pocket and held it out. Dr. Janelle Brooks, she said. MIT, Harvard, federal investigator, embedded at Hartswell for 3 years. Monica stared at the card, her world folding in on itself. You were just a janitor, she whispered. Janelle looked her in the eye. That, she said, was your first mistake. The silence that followed was thick, electric. For a moment, no one moved, not even Monica. Her mouth hung open, eyes locked on the business card, as if the words on it might rearrange into something more believable. But they didn't. Dr. Janelle Brooks. 3 years she'd walked these halls unseen, collecting trash, wiping windows, blending into the background. 3 years spent listening more than speaking, watching more than reacting. And now the woman they all ignored was standing tall in the center of the room, no longer in uniform, but in command. Denise was the first to find her voice. You were FBI this whole time. Janelle gave her a faint smile, not of superiority, but of quiet acknowledgement. Not exactly FBI, she said, but I work closely with them. After my previous company tried to silence me for exposing embezzlement, I was offered another path. One where I could keep digging without needing a boardroom to do it. Andre stepped beside her, offering a slim black tablet. Everything's here, he said, handing it to Agent Cole. Financial records, internal memos, the planted evidence, even voice recordings of Monica instructing her team to get rid of my mom. Monica flinched at the sound of her own words, now undeniable. Her carefully built empire had collapsed in under 5 minutes. Why, she asked, her voice cracking, as Cole read her rights. Why go through all of this? Janelle didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned to the gathered staff, some stunned, some ashamed, some quietly cheering. Because corruption doesn't live in shadows, she said, voice calm but clear. It lives in plain sight, behind office doors, inside HR memos, in the silence people offer when they're too afraid to lose their jobs. She paused, letting her words settle. And because the people who clean your offices at night see more than you think. A hush fell over the room again, this time, not from shock, but from recognition. Denise stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. You're the reason they're investigating the pension cuts. Janelle nodded. Among other things, you were all being squeezed, slowly, health benefits, trimmed shifts, reshuffled, retirement plans gutted. It wasn't incompetence, it was strategy, and Monica thought no one was watching. Cole gave a nod to his team, and Monica was led out of the room in handcuffs, her heels scuffing against the tile floor. There were no parting words, just the weight of 1,000 assumptions unraveling behind her. As the door closed, Janelle turned to Andre. Let's finish this. He opened another folder, this one filled with printed reports and signatures, proof of illegal firings, forged audits, and hush payments. Janelle laid them out on the break room table, motioning for everyone to come closer. These aren't just numbers, she said. They're your missing paychecks, your lost benefits, your canceled promotions. This company used your silence as permission. But that ends today. The room slowly filled in around her. People stepped forward. Not just Denise, but engineers, secretaries, even senior managers, many of whom had looked at Janelle as if she were part of the furniture. Now they looked at her like a mirror. This place will survive, Janelle continued, but not as it was. Hartswell will be placed under federal supervision during reorganization. Corrupt executives will be replaced, and the workers, the real foundation, will be protected. Denise blinked, tears threatening. What happens to you? Janelle smiled. There's been an offer. She didn't elaborate just yet. Instead, she reached into her old locker, pulled out a manila envelope, and handed it to Denise. You're going to help lead HR the right way now, she said. Denise's mouth opened in disbelief. Are you serious? Dead serious, Janelle replied. You were one of the few people who saw me, really saw me even when you didn't know who I was. Now it's your turn to make sure no one else here ever gets treated like they're disposable. The room was quiet again, but it wasn't the same kind of silence. This one felt like a beginning. Later that afternoon, the building felt different. There was a stillness in the air, but it wasn't tension anymore. It was clarity. People moved through the halls like they were waking up from a long sleep. The same floors Janelle had polished for years were now walked with a kind of reverence, as if every scuffed tile suddenly held a story they'd failed to notice. Janelle sat alone in Monica's old office. The blinds were open wide, letting sunlight spill across the sleek glass desk. For a moment, she just stood there, taking in the space. Same view, same leather chair, same gold nameplate on the door, though hers hadn't been engraved yet. A knock tapped lightly against the frame. It was Agent Marcus Cole. He stepped inside with the easy familiarity of someone who'd once known her before everything had fallen apart. He gave a small smile. They offered you the position, he said. Did you accept? She nodded slowly. Director of Corporate Integrity. A new title for a company that desperately needs new rules. He studied her for a second. 3 years undercover. You could have pulled the plug earlier. I could have, she admitted, but I needed all of it. Not just enough to expose Monica, enough to restructure everything. This isn't just about punishing one corrupt executive. It's about dismantling the culture that protected her. Cole exhaled. You always were surgical. She smiled faintly. I used to think the work I did in a boardroom was the only kind that mattered. But scrubbing floors while listening to hallway deals, that taught me more about how power really moves. Outside, Denise was giving a tour to a group of newly promoted staff, maintenance leads, cafeteria managers, custodial supervisors. Hartswell's new compensation policy, spearheaded by Janelle, had raised all base wages by 200% and included full educational benefits for support staff and their families. It was one of the first things she signed. This time the change wouldn't be symbolic, it would be structural. Down the hall, HR interns were clearing out Monica's former desk, pausing briefly when they discovered the framed magazine covers and crystal trophies. None of it mattered now. Somewhere across town, Monica was trading her tailored blazer for a blue jumpsuit and being told to clean a toilet for the first time in her life. Poetic, perhaps, but Janelle didn't feel triumphant. She felt resolute. That evening, she returned home to the same modest apartment where nothing had changed except the way Andre and Mia looked at her now, with pride that ran so deep it didn't need words. Andre had already finished packing. MIT sent the welcome kit, he said, placing the branded sweatshirt on the kitchen table. Full scholarship, housing, everything. Janelle ran her hand over the fabric. You earned it. He looked up. We earned it. Mia burst through the door minutes later, dropping her backpack with a dramatic sigh. Our principal wants to start a robotics club and put me in charge. I told her I needed to check with legal counsel first. Janelle laughed, a deep, genuine sound that hadn't passed her lips in too long. She watched them for a moment, these two kids who had grown up watching her wear a janitor's badge by day and read legal codes by night, who never saw her as just a cleaner or just a mother, but something else entirely, something whole. She reached for a framed photo on the counter. It was of the three of them, taken 2 years ago, standing beside her cleaning cart. She didn't hide it. She kept it there where anyone could see, not as a reminder of what she escaped from, but of what she carried with her. That night, as the city lights shimmered beyond their windows, Janelle sat down with a pen and a fresh notepad. There were still names to clear, benefits to restore, policies to rewrite. The empire had fallen, but the real work, the rebuilding, that was just beginning. Some weeks later, Janelle stood at the edge of a stage at a leadership summit in Washington, D.C. The ballroom was full. Executives, policymakers, academics, all gathered to hear the woman who had brought down one of the largest corporate fraud rings in recent history. But Janelle didn't care much for the fanfare. She wasn't there for applause. She was there for truth. When they introduced her, the audience rose in a standing ovation. She smiled politely, walked to the podium, and waited for the room to quiet down. Then she looked out over the sea of suits and polished shoes and said, "I used to clean floors for people who never looked me in the eye. And I used to think that I said something about me, but it didn't. It said everything about them." A hush fell, the kind born not of politeness, but reckoning. "Power isn't just about who's in charge," she continued. "It's about who gets seen, who gets heard, and who gets erased the moment they put on a uniform." She paused, letting that truth land where it needed to. I wasn't just embedded at Hartswell to collect evidence. I was there to listen, to people who had stopped speaking up because they thought no one would listen. And I was there to prove something we forget far too often, that intelligence has no dress code and integrity doesn't need a title. When she stepped down, the applause returned, but softer this time. Not thunderous, just deeply felt. Later that night, back at her apartment, she tucked Mia into bed and walked into the living room, where Andre was scrolling through emails. One caught her eye, a message from a junior accountant at a tech firm in Boston, asking if Janelle might advise on a small internal audit. "I think something shady's happening here," the woman wrote. "But no one believes me." Janelle sat down, clicked reply, and typed 4 simple words. "I believe you. Let's talk." She hit send and leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment. Across the room, the photo of her and her kids beside that old cleaning cart still stood on the shelf. Some visitors had asked her why she kept it, why she hadn't replaced it with a plaque or a headline. But to Janelle, that photo was the plaque. It was the proof, not of status, but of survival, of how power isn't what you wear, it's what you choose to carry even when no one's watching. Sometimes she still thought about Monica Langston, not with spite, but with a kind of solemn curiosity, how a person could build their whole life on superiority and be undone by the very woman they refused to see. Last she heard, Monica was serving a 15-year sentence and had become known at the facility for her spotless floors and combative attitude. Some people clean to earn a living, others clean to make peace with their conscience. As Janelle prepared for bed, Andre looked up from his laptop. "Hey, Mom." "Yeah, do you ever miss it?" he asked. "Cleaning offices at night." She smiled gently. "Sometimes." "Seriously?" She nodded. "At night, people don't pretend as much. When you clean offices after hours, you see people as they really are. The coffee stains, the crumpled notes, the handwritten apologies never sent. There's a kind of honesty in the mess." Andre thought about that, then nodded. "Makes sense." Janelle turned off the lamp and headed toward her room. As she reached the doorway, she paused and looked back. "You know the funny thing about being invisible," she said. "It teaches you how to see everything." And with that, she disappeared into the quiet of the hallway, no longer unseen, no longer underestimated, but finally exactly where she was meant to be. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think twice about how we see others, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest truths.